The thing about Kepler Station's Veterans Bar is that it never changes. Same flickering neon signs advertising drinks that could strip paint off a starship hull. Same collection of battle-scarred aliens, nursing their preferred poisons and swapping lies about the wars they survived. Same corner booth where I park my forearms every rotation cycle, watching the universe spin by through grimy portholes. My name's Zek, and I've got scales thick enough to stop plasma rounds and scars to prove it. Fought in 17 different conflicts across 12 star systems, earned enough medals to weigh down a cargo freighter, and lived long enough to know that the most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't some exotic weapon or cosmic phenomenon. It's humans. But apparently, nobody told that to the young hotshot who just swaggered into my bar. Kid's name is Pip. Fresh out of the Galactic Military Academy, with his uniform still creased, and his confidence still intact. Species doesn't matter much when you're that green. But for the record, he's Zentarian. All purple skin and oversized cranium. Probably thinks his brain-to-body ratio makes him the smartest thing since sliced quantum bread. He slides into the booth across from me without invitation, which already tells me everything I need to know about his survival instincts. Zek, right? He says, flashing those needle-sharp teeth that Zentarians think look intimidating. Heard you served with humans during the Proxima campaigns. I take a slow sip of my fermented algae cocktail, letting the silence stretch until it gets uncomfortable. Kid needs to learn patience if he wants to live past his first deployment. Might have. I finally grunt. Must have been hilarious. Pip continues, completely missing my tone. I mean humans. Really? They're barely out of their stone age. No natural weapons, no armor plating, can't even see properly in low light. Command must have been desperate to recruit a species that still thinks violence solves problems. That's when I nearly choke on my drink. The bar goes quiet. Not completely silent, mind you, but quiet enough that the other veterans stop their conversations and turn to look. Old Grex at the bar counter actually sets down his glass of liquid nitrogen. Commander Vash's tentacles stop twitching mid-story. They know what's coming. Kid, I say, wiping algae foam from my snout, you just made the kind of mistake that gets entire fleets turned into space debris. I lean back in my seat, all forearms crossed. You want to know about humans? Really want to know? Pip nods eagerly, probably thinking he's about to hear some amusing stories about primitive aliens bumbling around with their crude technology. Poor stupid kid. Then settle in, I tell him, signaling the bartender for another round, because I'm about to explain why the 3 most terrifying words in the Galactic Military Database are humans are involved. The other veterans chuckle knowingly. A few of them pull their chairs closer. They've heard this story before, but it never gets old. Pip, bless his oversized brain, still thinks this is going to be comedy hour. He has no idea he's about to get an education in why every smart species in the galaxy has learned to be very, very polite to humans. It was the Battle of Proxima Ridge. I begin, settling into storytelling mode. Joint operation against the Vorthan Empire. Nasty bunch, the Vorthans. 8 feet tall, built like walking tanks. And they had this annoying habit of turning entire planets into glass sculptures. Pip leans forward, probably expecting tales of alien superiority and human incompetence. Command assigned us a mixed unit. Zentarians, for tactical analysis. Krelians for heavy assault. Vaxans for technical support. And, I pause for dramatic effect, humans for backup. The kid snorts. Backup. What could they possibly back up? That's exactly what I thought. I continue. I mean, look at the specs. Right. We had plasma cannons that could punch through starship hulls. They had projectile weapons that threw tiny metal pellets. We had energy shields generated by quantum field manipulation. They had pieces of fabric they wore over their torso. Old Grex chuckles from the bar. He was there too. So there we were, advancing on the Vorthan stronghold, with all our superior technology. Feeling pretty confident. I'm carrying enough firepower to level a city block. My armor can withstand direct hits from fusion missiles, and my tactical computer can calculate firing solutions faster than most species can think. I take another sip, letting the anticipation build. Then the Vorthans hit us with an electromagnetic pulse weapon, biggest one I'd ever seen. Knocked out every piece of advanced technology in a 50-kilometer radius. My plasma rifle, dead. My tactical computer, fried. My communications array, completely useless. Pip's eyes widen. He's starting to see where this is going. So there we are, the galaxy's finest warriors, rendered completely helpless by the loss of our precious technology. Krelians standing around like confused statues, Zentaurians having existential crises because their brain implants stopped working. Even the Vaxans, supposed masters of adaptation, just sat there calculating probability matrices for surrender. I leaned forward, grinning with all my teeth showing. But the humans looked around at our useless equipment, shrugged, and said, "Huh, Tuesday." "What do you mean Tuesday?" Pip asks. "I mean they acted like massive technology failures were just another day ending in Y." Their commander, this guy named Jake Murphy, walked over to our dead communication array, pulled out a roll of silver adhesive tape, and started wrapping it around everything. "Duct tape," Grex calls out from the bar. "They call it duct tape." "Right, duct tape. Apparently it's some kind of miracle substance they discovered. Holds the universe together, according to humans." Murphy wrapped it around our quantum transmitter, connected it to what looked like a food heating device, with some metal wire, and somehow created a working communications jammer. Pip's jaw drops. "That's impossible. You can't turn kitchen appliances into military equipment." Tell that to the Vorthans whose command frequency got hijacked by what sounded like, what did Murphy call it? Elevator music. Their entire battle coordination got replaced by something called the Girl from Ipanema. The other veterans are nodding and chuckling. They remember. But that wasn't even the best part. I continue. While Murphy was performing technological miracles with household adhesive, the rest of his unit was turning our disabled weapons into, well, I'm still not entirely sure what to call them. One of them took my plasma rifle, removed the power cell, filled it with some kind of powder, and turned it into a projectile launcher. Another one disassembled a Krelian heavy bolter, and somehow made it shoot electricity. "How?" Pip whispers. I asked the same question. The human just looked at me and said, "Well, you see, the flux capacitor connects to the DITSIM matrix, which obviously bypasses the quantum interference pattern." Then he winked. I paused to let that sink in. "Kid, I've got 17 years of technical training, and 2 engineering degrees." I had no idea what he just said, but somehow it worked perfectly, and I'm pretty sure he made half of those words up. That's when I realized, I continue, that humans don't just use technology. They have this weird, almost mystical relationship with it. They can make anything work with anything else, usually involving that silver tape, and what they call percussive maintenance. "What's percussive maintenance?" Pip asks. I grin. "Hitting things until they work." But technological wizardry was just the appetizer. I continue, watching Pip's expression grow more concerned with each word. The main course was learning about human stubbornness, which is like regular stubbornness except it's been weaponized. I signal for another drink. This part of the story always makes my throat dry. So Murphy's improvised jamming device worked perfectly. But the Vorthans adapted faster than we expected. They switched to ground-based communications and started advancing on our position. Standard military doctrine says when you're outnumbered 3-1 with compromised equipment, you conduct an orderly tactical withdrawal. Retreat, Grex translates from the bar. Right, retreat. Run away before you all die horribly. Simple concept, practiced by every intelligent species in the galaxy. I pause. Humans apparently never got that memo. Pip's starting to look genuinely worried now. Their medic Sergeant Luna Kowalski was treating wounded in a makeshift field hospital when the retreat order came down. Nice, safe, logical order. Evacuate who you can. Leave the rest. Acceptable losses for the greater good. Standard operating procedure. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Kowalski looked at the order, looked at the 3 critically wounded soldiers she was treating, looked at the advancing Vorthan forces and said, and I quote, "Yeah, that's not happening." "What do you mean that's not happening?" Pip asks, though I can tell he's afraid of the answer. "I mean she refused a direct military order because it conflicted with her personal code of ethics." While every other species was conducting efficient tactical withdrawals, Kowalski grabbed the 3 wounded soldiers and started carrying them. All 3, simultaneously. That's impossible. Humans only have 2 arms, and Vorthan weapons, kid. I watched this woman carry a 100-kilogram Krelian, a wounded Zentaurian and an unconscious Vaxan engineer through active enemy fire for 2 kilometers. When I asked her how she was managing the weight, she said she'd been doing CrossFit. Pip looks confused. What's CrossFit? Some kind of human torture ritual they do voluntarily. The point is, while she's carrying 3 bodies through a war zone, Vorthan plasma bolts exploding around her, she's also providing running commentary on their tactical mistakes. I do my best impression of Kowalski's voice, which is admittedly difficult with vocal cords designed for growling. "Really, guys? You're going to suppress fire from that position?" My grandmother could find better cover and she's been dead for 15 years. This while diving behind rocks with 3 wounded soldiers strapped to her back. The other veterans are grinning now. They remember Kowalski. But here's where it gets really weird, I continue. She runs out of medical supplies halfway through the evacuation. Standard procedure says stabilize who you can and hope for the best. Kowalski's response, she performs field surgery using a combat knife and dental floss. Dental floss? String they use to clean their teeth. Apparently it works great for emergency sutures if you sterilize it with military-grade alcohol first, which she did, by setting it on fire, while still holding it. Pip is staring at me in horror. The Krelian she was treating had internal bleeding. Know what she did? Told him, listen, big guy, I've seen scarier injuries on cooking shows. Death's going to have to wait in line behind my student loans and my ex-husband's alimony payments. She talked to death. That's what I thought too. Turns out it's just human psychological warfare applied to abstract concepts. She spent 20 minutes explaining to the universe why it was inconvenient for these soldiers to die right now, including a detailed breakdown of paperwork requirements and next of kin notifications. I take a long drink. The really disturbing part, it worked. All 3 soldiers survived. The Krelian later said he was afraid to die because Kowalski made it sound like more trouble than it was worth. But the Vorthans, oh the Vorthans, caught up to us eventually. Found Kowalski in a crater, still treating wounded, completely surrounded. They demanded her surrender. I grin at the memory. She looked up from stitching a plasma burn with dental floss and said, can't you see I'm busy? Take a number. What happened? The Vorthan commander was so confused by her complete lack of self-preservation instinct that he actually stopped to ask what she meant by take a number. That's when our reinforcements arrived. I finish my drink and set it down with emphasis. Kid, I've seen soldiers face impossible odds. I've seen warriors charge into certain death for glory or duty or revenge. But I'd never seen anyone treat mortal danger like a minor inconvenience at the grocery store. Kowalski didn't fight death, she just told it to wait its turn while she finished her job. Pip is quiet for a long moment. That's when I started to understand, I continue. That humans don't just ignore logical limitations, they get personally offended by them. Pip's looking a little green around the gills now, which is saying something since Centaurians are already purple. But I'm not done with his education yet. Now you might think that improvised engineering and weaponized stubbornness would be enough to make humans terrifying, I say, gesturing for another round. But those are just warm-up acts compared to their most dangerous ability. Which is? Pip asks weakly. Pack bonding. I reply. Humans will form emotional attachments to literally anything. Rocks, plants, broken machinery, enemy soldiers, abstract concepts, you name it. And once they decide something is part of their pack, they will burn down the galaxy to protect it. The other veterans nod grimly. Commander Vash's tentacles actually shudder at the memory. This lesson came courtesy of Private Tommy Chen, their engineer. Nice kid, always smiling. Carried pictures of something called a golden retriever in his helmet. Talked about this dog like it was his commanding officer. A dog, Pip interrupts, domesticated predator they keep as companions. 4 legs fur apparently exists solely to be happy about everything. The point is Tommy had this unsettling ability to befriend anything with a power source. I lean back, remembering the absurdity of what I witnessed. So we're advancing on the Vorthan stronghold, right? Their defensive line included these massive battle mechs, 12-foot-tall walking weapons platforms with enough firepower to level buildings. Standard protocol when facing enemy mechs is to disable them with electromagnetic charges, then move in for salvage operations. Sounds reasonable, Pip says. That's what I thought. So our tech teams hit one of these mechs with a disruptor field, shut down its main systems, and moved in to strip it for intelligence. Tommy was assigned to help with the technical analysis. I pause for another drink. 20 minutes later I hear laughing coming from inside the mech. Not human laughing, mind you. Mechanical laughing, like someone taught a pile of scrap metal how to find things amusing. Pip's eyes widen. I go to investigate, and I find Tommy sitting inside the cockpit, sharing his field rations with a Vorthan battle computer. Apparently while everyone else was trying to hack its systems, Tommy started talking to it. Asked about its day, complimented its weapon targeting algorithms, showed it pictures of his dog. You can't have conversations with enemy war machines. Pip protests. Tell that to Big Betty. I reply. Big Betty. That's what Tommy named the mech. Turns out, Vorthan AIs are programmed for tactical efficiency but nobody ever bothered to give them social interaction protocols. So when this human shows up and starts treating it like a person instead of a weapon system, the AI doesn't know how to process it. I shake my head at the memory. Tommy spent 3 hours explaining human concepts like friendship, loyalty, and the importance of having someone who's genuinely happy to see you at the end of the day. He showed the AI videos of dogs greeting their owners, explained the concept of good morning greetings, and somehow convinced a war machine that it was missing out on basic emotional fulfillment. "That's impossible," Pip whispers. By hour 4, Big Betty was asking if it could defect. I continue. Not for political reasons or strategic advantage, but because Tommy made it realize that in 12 years of operation, nobody had ever asked if it was having a good day. The bar has gone completely quiet now. Even the background music seems to have stopped. But here's where it gets really weird, I say. Tommy didn't just convert one mech, he started introducing Big Betty to other captured Vorthan equipment. Apparently, pack bonding is contagious when humans are involved. What do you mean? I mean, Tommy turned psychological warfare into a friendship recruitment program. Within a week we had 17 Vorthan battle units asking to switch sides because nobody on their original team appreciated their contributions or bothered to learn their individual personalities. I finish my drink and set it down hard. The Vorthan command was so confused by mass defections due to loneliness that they sent a diplomatic team to ask what kind of advanced psychological warfare we were using. Tommy explained that he'd just been nice to their machines and offered to share his sandwiches. Sandwiches, food items. Apparently the concept of sharing meals as a bonding ritual completely broke the Vorthan understanding of military psychology. Their entire species operates on hierarchical dominance structures, but humans just make friends with things. I looked directly at Pip. "Kid, I watched a human convince enemy war machines to join our side by treating them like lonely pets who needed attention. And it worked. Big Betty ended up with more confirmed kills against her former allies than any other unit in our battalion. And she did it while humming human music Tommy taught her." Pip is staring at me in complete silence. That's when I realized, I continue, that humans don't just fight wars. They aggressively recruit everything around them into their emotional support network. Trees, rocks, vehicles, weapons, enemy soldiers, hostile AI's abstract concepts, probably gravity itself if they could figure out how to give it a nickname and share snacks with it. Commander Vash speaks up from across the bar. "My unit had a human who befriended a black hole, named it Gerald. Still sends it birthday cards." Pip looks like he's going to be sick. "But you haven't heard the best part yet," I say, watching Pip's face cycle through several shades of purple I didn't know Zentarians could achieve. All of this Murphy's duct tape engineering, Kowalski's weaponized stubbornness, Tommy's friendship recruitment program, was just the opening act. I lean forward, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The finale came when their commanding officer, General Patricia Williams, decided to coordinate all these human abilities into what she called Operation Aggressive Friendship. Operation what now? Pip croaks. Aggressive Friendship. I thought it was a translation error at first, but no, that's actually what they called their final assault strategy. Williams looked at our mixed bag of duct-taped equipment, reformed enemy mechs, and soldiers who'd been medically treated with dental floss, and said, "You know what? Let's lean into this." The other veterans gather closer. Even they love this part of the story. So picture this: the final assault on the Vorthan stronghold. Standard doctrine says you probe for weaknesses, establish fire superiority, coordinate synchronized attacks across multiple fronts. Textbook military strategy that every species in the galaxy understands. I pause for dramatic effect. Williams threw out the textbook and replaced it with what she called applied chaos theory with emotional support supplements. "I don't understand," Pip says. "Neither did the Vorthans, which was the point." The attack began with Murphy's jury-rigged communication system broadcasting what humans call elevator musics directly into the enemy command structure. Not jamming their communications, mind you. Improving them. With smooth jazz. Grex snorts with laughter. Drove them absolutely mad. While their command staff was trying to coordinate tactical responses over a soundtrack of Kenny G, Kowalski led the medical corps in what she termed aggressive triage advancement. Instead of setting up field hospitals behind the lines, she moved them to the front and started treating wounded Vorthans. She treated the enemy? Pip asks, horrified. "Kid." She set up a fully functional medical station 50 meters from active combat and put up a sign that said universal healthcare. Now accepting all insurance plans. When Vorthan soldiers got wounded, their own medics would point them toward Kowalski's station because her success rate was better than theirs. I take another drink, still amazed by the memory. But that wasn't the beautiful part. The beautiful part was watching Tommy Chen coordinate 17 converted battle mechs in what he called group therapy formation. Big Betty was leading a squad of former enemy units in synchronized combat maneuvers while providing emotional support to newly defected AIs. How does that even work? Pip whispers.
Picture this.
Big Betty rolling into combat, laying down suppressing fire with her main cannons, while simultaneously broadcasting encouragement to 3 recently converted Vorthan scout units. You're doing great, little Timmy. Remember we talked about using your words instead of your plasma cannons when you're feeling frustrated. The entire bar erupts in laughter. Even species that weren't there find this hilarious. Meanwhile, I continue. Williams is coordinating this entire circus from a command post that Murphy built using 6 different types of alien technology, human duct tape, and what appeared to be a coffee-making device. Her tactical displays were powered by salvaged enemy equipment that Tommy had befriended, and her communications were being patched through Kowalski's medical scanner because it had better range than our actual military gear. This is insane, Pip mutters. Kid. Insane doesn't begin to cover it. Williams was running a full-scale military operation, using equipment held together with tape and friendship, coordinating attacks through smooth jazz, providing universal healthcare to enemy combatants, and conducting group therapy sessions for reformed war machines, all while maintaining what she called optimal morale levels by sharing snacks with everyone. I lean back, grinning at the memory. The Vorthan commander finally requested a ceasefire just to ask what the hell we were doing. Williams invited him to tea. Hot leaf water. Humans drink it for social bonding. She set up a meeting in the middle of the battlefield, served refreshments, and spent 2 hours explaining human military philosophy while Kowalski patched up his wounded soldiers and Tommy showed his AI units pictures of puppies. Pip is staring at me with the expression of someone whose entire worldview is crumbling. By the end of the conversation, the Vorthan commander was asking if his forces could defect too, not for strategic reasons, but because Williams made him realize his troops had never experienced job satisfaction or workplace appreciation. I finish my drink and lean forward. That's when I understood the real lesson, kid. Humans don't just fight wars, they don't even just win wars. They convert wars into elaborate team-building exercises where everyone learns valuable life skills and goes home feeling better about themselves. The surrender ceremony, Grex calls out. Tell him about the surrender ceremony. Oh right, I continue. Williams turned the formal surrender into what she called a celebration of new friendships and professional development opportunities. There were snacks, group photos, and she gave everyone certificates of participation. Certificates of what? Participation. Apparently humans believe that showing up and trying your best deserves recognition, even in armed conflict. Every Vorthan soldier got a personalized certificate thanking them for their service and welcoming them to what Williams called the Galactic community of mutual support and shared snack responsibility. I looked directly at Pip. Kid. I've fought in 17 different wars across 12 star systems. I've seen species that can manipulate matter at the molecular level, civilizations that harness the power of stars, and technologies that bend space-time itself. But I'd never seen anyone treat intergalactic warfare like a workplace team-building retreat with mandatory friendship activities. The bar is completely silent now. And that, I conclude, is why humans are the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Not because they're the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because they can turn any situation, no matter how dire, into an opportunity for aggressive emotional bonding and snack sharing. The silence in the bar stretches for a long moment. Pip sits there, his oversized Zentaurian brain probably trying to process everything I've just told him. His purple skin has gone through at least 6 different shades during my story, and right now he's settling on a sort of sickly lavender that suggests existential crisis. But, he finally manages. His voice barely above a whisper, but the military reports said humans were assigned as backup support, low-priority reinforcement units. I start laughing, not my usual growling chuckle, but full-blown, scales-rattling laughter that makes my drink slosh onto the table. Around the bar, the other veterans join in. Grex is wheezing through his respiratory slits. Commander Vash's tentacles are practically vibrating with mirth. Kid, I gasp between laughs. Kid, oh you beautiful naive little genius. You actually believe the official reports. Pip looks around desperately, like he's hoping someone will tell him this is all an elaborate joke. Let me explain something to you about military classification systems, I continue, wiping tears from my eyes. When the reports say humans were assigned as backup support, they don't mean backup for us. They mean we were assigned as backup for them. The color drains completely from Pip's face. Think about it logically, I say, leaning forward. Murphy had 17 years of combat engineering experience and could turn kitchen appliances into weapons of mass communication. Kowalski had saved more lives than our entire medical corps combined and could argue death itself into submission. Tommy Chen could convert enemy war machines through the power of loneliness counseling and sandwich sharing, and Williams could coordinate all of this into a military strategy so effective that enemies would surrender just to get invited to the team-building activities. Pip's mouth opens and closes like a fish out of water. You think command puts people like that in backup positions? I continue. Kid, we weren't the elite unit being supported by primitive humans. We were the remedial class being babysat by the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. But the technology gaps, Pip protests weakly. The tactical assessments, the species compatibility reports. All true, I acknowledge. Humans do use primitive projectile weapons, fabric armor, and duct tape engineering. Their medical techniques do involve dental floss and percussive maintenance. Their military strategy does sound like workplace team-building exercises designed by someone with severe attachment issues. I lean back in my seat, all four arms spread wide. The part those reports didn't mention is that it all works. Terrifyingly, impossibly, against all logic and reason, it works better than anything else in the galaxy. Old Grex speaks up from the bar. Had a human in my unit during the Kepler Nebula campaign. Kid, named Rodriguez, convinced a space station to defect by teaching it card games. Mine befriended a supernova, adds Commander Vash, still get holiday cards from it. The radiation signatures spell out happy birthday in 17 different languages. There was that human pilot who sweet-talked her way through a black hole by complimenting its event horizon, another veteran chimes in. Came out the other side with a new best friend and 3 marriage proposals from sentient gas clouds. Pip is looking around the bar like he's trapped in a nightmare. But why, he asks desperately, why doesn't anyone warn new recruits about this? Why don't the reports explain what humans are really capable of? I finish my drink and set it down with a definitive clink. Because kid, there are some things you can't put in official reports. How do you explain to command that humans can weaponize friendship? How do you document that they treat cosmic horror like customer service issues? How do you write a tactical assessment that says enemy forces may experience existential crisis when exposed to human concepts of workplace appreciation and snack sharing? The bureaucracy alone would collapse, Grex adds helpfully. Exactly, I continue. So the reports stick to the measurable stuff. Weapon specifications, armor ratings, technological capabilities, all technically accurate, all completely missing the point. I gesture around the bar, at all the veterans nodding in agreement. Every species that's fought alongside humans learns the same lesson eventually. It's just that most of us learn it the way you did tonight, sitting in bars, listening to stories that sound too crazy to be true. Pip sits quietly for a long moment, staring into his untouched drink. So what am I supposed to do with this information? He finally asks. Same thing we all did, I tell him. Next time you get assigned to a unit with humans, don't think of yourself as the superior alien sharing wisdom with primitive earthlings. Think of yourself as the student being taught by master practitioners of weaponized chaos and aggressive emotional support. And pack extra snacks, Commander Vash adds. They always want to share food with everyone, and it's considered rude to refuse. Oh, and learn some card games, Grex suggests. Humans love card games. Don't ask me why, but knowing how to play poker has gotten me out of more dangerous situations than my plasma rifle ever did. Pip nods slowly, like someone accepting a terminal diagnosis. Are there any? He starts hesitantly. Any safer species to serve with? Maybe something less aggressively friendly. The entire bar erupts in laughter again. Kid, I say, wiping my eyes. You want safer? Try the Kytherians. They breathe liquid methane and communicate through controlled explosions. Or maybe the Void Dancers. They exist partially in another dimension and consider physical matter a suggestion rather than a requirement. At least with species like that, Grex adds, you know what you're dealing with. Incomprehensible alien horror, cosmic indifference, reality-bending physics. Standard stuff you can plan for. But humans, I shake my head. Humans will look at incomprehensible alien horror and ask if it needs a hug and some homemade cookies. Pip signals the bartender for something stronger than what he originally ordered. Welcome to the real galaxy, kid, I tell him, raising my fresh drink in a toast. Population mostly harmless, except for the ones who think everything deserves friendship and proper nutrition. The other veterans raise their glasses as well. To humans we chorus, the most terrifying force in the universe, and the best friends you'll ever have. Pip downs his drink in one gulp and immediately orders another. Smart kid. He's learning fast.